Right. So today we're looking at Webpage Design. We'll be looking at chapter 6.1, the introduction to Webpage Design. So what we'll basically be doing today is looking at what is the basics of a web page, what is the difference between a web page, a website, how is what's the structure of a website, what's the structure of a web page, what's the how are they made. Those basics we'll be looking at today. We'll just look at this one chapter for today. So I'll be going through the chapter. If you're not clear in anything, you have to let me know, and I think that's basically it. So to get us started, the first paragraph. So the first paragraph says that a web page is a document you can view using a browser. Now it says that a web page is a document that you view using a browser. Now all of you, I'm sure you've used websites before, you've used browsers before. Now your web page can be considered a document. Your web page can be considered a document. What do we mean by a document? That's a question to you guys. What do you think we mean by a document? What do you think? When you hear a document, what are you thinking? Or y'all don't think at all? Nobody?
Sorry, probably technology created it has information in it.
So in terms of software though, if you hear document, do you think of Microsoft Word? Do you think of a Word document? Do you think of Google Doc? Anything like that comes to mind?
Yes, sir.
Right. If it does, that's good, because that's actually what a web page is. So just like how you can say, for instance, you can have a document and you would type in your information into a document. Similarly, a web page is like that. That's what I'm trying to help you to understand right now. A web page, when you go on the internet and you type in a certain word and you see all of this information here, it is basically like you're seeing a document. Like if you open Microsoft Word and you're seeing text, you're seeing images, you're seeing other forms of editing and so on, it's similar to that. That is basically what is a website. So that's why we can say that a web page is like a document. So just like how you would have a document file, like how for instance I would have a PDF file and I open that PDF file with Adobe Reader, or I open this Word document and it opens with Microsoft Word. Similarly, your web page is like a document on somebody's computer and you open it using a browser. That is basically what is a website. So but as we go more into web page, you'll see what is actually the files that make up this document. So it continues. It may contain text, images, videos, hyperlinks that to other web pages and files. Web pages are usually written in a language called HTML. So this is so that's your first important point there. This is your second point here. To create a web page, you use a language called the HTML language, Hypertext Markup language. Now this is a language that is used, it's a universal language that was developed to produce the layout of a web page. Have any of you ever heard of a programming language? And have you ever heard that before? Programming language? It's simple yes or no.
Nope.
No? That's actually what you'll be learning about in the next term. So if you ever search programming languages, you'll see you'll have a wide variety of them. Good. So this is a list of, I would like to say, all the programming languages in the world. And next term, you'll be learning this language here, Pascal. So a programming language is a language that you use to create a program. It's that simple. A programming language is a language that you use to create a program. And just like how you see here, there's a wide variety of programming language. You can consider it like normal everyday language that we have: English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and so on. So each programming language you can consider it similar to that. It's a different language that you can use to create a program. So for instance, I'm sure some of you have heard about Python. Where is that one? Python. The Python programming language. There's Python. I'm sure some of you have heard of Java. There's Java, there's JavaScript, and then the popular one, there is C programming, C++, C#, and so on. So those are just some of the common or the more popular programming language. So why I'm mentioning this here is that the HTML is not a programming language. So do not become confused by thinking that HTML is a programming language. It is not. So that's your third point there. A programming language is a language that you use to create a program. Is a website a program? Yes or no? I didn't get a response clearly. Yes or no? Is a website a program?
Yes.
What did we just learn in the beginning? What can a web page or website be compared to?
A document?
A document. So is a document a program?
No, sir.
No. A document, when we say a document, think of a Word document, think of a letter. We're not talking about the software. We're just talking about the document itself. That's what we're talking about. So think of it like a physical paper with the information on it. So a website is not a program. A website is not a program, it's not a software. It's considered a document because the language that you use, if you notice in the name, it's called a markup language. So it's right here. It's a markup language. Why it's called a markup language? Because HTML is used to give you the layout of the web page. That is the purpose of HTML. So just like how in your document you're gonna say that this word is gonna be the left side of the page, this word here is gonna be on the right side of the page. That is layout. I am formatting the layout. When I say this word should go into the center, all of that is structure in the layout of this document here. So similarly, when you're creating a web page, you're using a language called HTML language, and all you're basically doing with this language is structuring or marking the layout of that web page. So when you go to a website, if you notice This basically has columns. 1 column here, 2 column here, 3 column, 4 column. You have a paragraph here that's left aligned. You have a heading here. So if you notice, it actually looks like a Word document. You have bullet points here. So a web page, a website, think of it like a Word document. And you're using the HTML language, the hypertext markup language, to structure the layout of your information that is going on that web page. So if you're going to put text on the web page, if you're going to put images, if you're going to put video, if you're going to put hyperlink, whatever you're putting on this website, whatever you're putting on this web page, it will be structured using the hypertext markup language. And final reminder, the HTML is not a programming language. It is a markup language. Are you guys clear on all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If anyone is confused, please let me know. Alright, so continuing. So it contains codes called tags. So the hypertext markup language has codes called tags that a web browser uses to present the text and images on the web page. The browser then interprets these tags to produce and format the web page for your view. So what are these tags here that we're talking about? These tags are called HTML tags. Can you please zoom in? All right. Good. So this is an example of HTML language, hypertext markup language, and wherever you see a word that has 2 arrows, one pointing to the left, one pointing to the right, that is called a tag. So this is a HTML tag. Whatever name you see between the arrows, that is the name of the tag. So this is at the top here, there's a HTML tag. Then we have a header tag, a title tag, an ending title tag, and so on. Now, remember I said that HTML is used to format, it's used to mark the layout. So if you notice, if you look at where we have 1 and then we have 2, we have a arrow, arrow, and the word 2. So the word 2 is just a normal word that we're typing in. We want that to appear in our document. But then we're surrounding that word 2 by a I tag. And this I tag is actually italics. So what's actually happening here is that, like in Word, when you would highlight a word and click on italic and you make that word italic, in HTML, in order to make this 2 italic, you would surround it by italic tags. So that is why this word 2 to the left has left arrow I, right arrow, and at the end of it has left arrow / I, right arrow. So this 2 here is surrounded by italic tags. So when you run this language now, or when you view this web page, this 2 here now is going to have a italic formatting applied to it. Did that make sense to you guys? So let me show you guys. I didn't want to go into detail as yet, but I guess I'll have to do it to show you guys what we're talking about. Alright, so in the beginning I said that a web page is like a document. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to create a HTML document to create a website. So if you guys want, you can follow along too, so that you can get an idea as to what is happening. So I am going to use a text file. So Notepad, I'm opening Notepad, I'm using a text file. So if you notice, I'm using a document. And in this document here, I'm going to type in my tags now. So I need to start with HTML and close HTML. We can learn about this later on, but I just want to show you something. And the word to. Hello world. So what you need to actually do now, in order to view this document as a web page, you need to save it. Go to Save As, and you're going to save this document as a .html. HTML. You guys following so far? Did I save it? Good. Now, if you notice, when I save this document here, notice new text document HTML.html, it's showing me the Google Chrome icon. So this is actually now being viewed or being considered as a website, as a web page. So if I actually double click on this here, notice it opened with my browser, and I'm seeing the word that I just typed there, hello world. So from this one text document and these few words that I just typed here, I just created a web page. It's actually that simple. Did you guys think it was harder than that, or did you think it was that simple? Harder? It's actually simple because as we're saying, a web page is a document. So basically all you're doing is putting your information into the document. Hello world, how are you? I am okay. This is my first web page. And you save. So I just save this here. And so if I go back to my browser and I refresh, notice all the information is here. But if you notice, there is no formatting. Even though in my Word doc, in my my text file, I type the information in different lines, it still appeared in the same line. Why? Because there is no formatting applied. So that is where this fourth point is going to come into play. Your HTML tags. Your HTML tags is what you're going to use to format your document now, to format your web page. So for instance, if I want to make let me see, what is the, so what you guys can do too, like if you want to know what is a tag, so you can go on the internet and type HTML new line tag. So that there is a tag. Let's see, element produces a line break in text. So if I take this tag here and I put it after here and I save this now, let's see if it works. So notice I now have a new paragraph here. So at the end now, if I put it at the end of each one of them now and I save, I'll now have each of my sentences in their own individual line. So that's the purpose of the HTML. You have your text information, you have your image, you have your Word doc, whatever information you want to put in the website. But the purpose of the HTML tag is to format that information. So for instance, now I want to make hello world bold. I need to use the bold tag. So I'm going to type left arrow B, the other arrow, and then I need to, this is another important point here. This is called a closing tag. So some tags, when you open them, you basically have to indicate where they're stopping, because if you don't indicate where this bold is stopping, then it's just going to bold everything. So I have to indicate that I just want to start bolding from here, and I'm going to stop bolding here. So that's the purpose of the open tag, to show where you're starting, and then you have a closing tag to show where you are ending. So when I save this here now and I refresh, let me open it side by side. So notice hello world is now bold. Anybody try this so far? Alright, so what I want you guys to do is to download a software called Notepad++. So you're going to search for Notepad++, and you're going to download this software here. So you can, any version is fine, but obviously the latest version is going to be better. So you download the installer. And you basically install the application. So the first page is going to come up asking you for the language. Select your language. Basically select next. You agree. Next to that also. Next to that also. You can create a shortcut in your desktop if you want. Install. And you can run it or not. But basically I want it open, so I'm going to finish that. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close this notepad here because I want to open this HTML file in that application that I just downloaded. So I already created my file, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click on it, go to open with, and choose another program, and I need to search for that notepad file, but let me see. Oh, so right click. If you're using Windows 11, you would need to show more options, and then you're going to see edit with notepad. If you're still on Windows 10, you should be able to see edit with notepad. So when I open with this here now, it's a notepad application, but it gives you the where's the window? This one. Yeah, it's a notepad application, but it gives you the layout of the of your HTML code, of your HTML language. So if you notice, each and every one of the tags, it gives you more presentation. It gives you more visualization as to how you're creating your tags. So if you notice, each tag is going to now appear blue, and is going to show you where you open and close now. So if you ever miss a tag, you'll be able to see that visually here. So if you notice, I'm going to click on the bold, so it's showing me that I opened here and I closed over there. And if you notice, not all tags have a closing tag. Okay, if you notice, the break tag does not have a closing tag. So some tags have an open and closing tag, whereas some is just one single tag. So in this software here now, you can further add your rest of tags if you want. So in the second line, I can type in left arrow I, and if you notice what's actually happening here, it's showing me some of the tags that I can use now. So I can use the I tag, that's the very first one, because that's going to be italic, and I need to close that now. So all closing tags have the same pattern, the same opening tag, but just that it has a / inside of it. So when I save this here now and I refresh my web page, notice how are you is now italic. So if you go back over what we've covered so far, your web page, your first important point, your web page can be considered like a document. So if you notice, what I've been editing so far is a text document. That's what I've been creating and editing so far. Secondly, we use a language called HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. We use that language to create our web page. Remember, it is not a programming language. A programming language is a language that you use to create a program, whereas we are using a markup language. And if you notice what we're doing so far, we are typing in our information. We're simply saying that this is our information, and the reason why it's called a markup language, HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is because we are marking the layout of our information. We're saying that hello world should be bold, how are you should be italic. We're saying that each one of these lines should be in its own, each one of these sentence should be in its own line. Even if you want something center, you could Google HTML center tag. So it's simply center. So I can make hello world center and close that. So notice I put a center tag around hello world. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh. So notice hello world is now centered in my web page, in my document. So that is what we're doing with HTML. We are formatting, we are marking the layout of the information that we're putting on our website, our web page. And how do we do that markup? We do that markup with tags, HTML tags. That is what we are using to mark our web page, to format our web page. And you can see some of the tags here. You have the HTML tag, the center tag, the break tag, the italic tag. That is what we use to format our web page. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Anyone with any questions? Anything that's confusing? Anything that is you didn't quite get? No one? Alright. Let's see. Designing a web page. Creating a web page. HTML. Okay, at that chapter. So at chapter 6.3, that's where we'll go more into detail about the HTML. As I just want to show you the basics for now, to give you an understanding as to how HTML is used and how we make a web page. So if you guys are clear on all of that, we'll continue. So the paragraph continues that the use of HTML helps you in two major ways. One, to share documents. So this is one benefit of using HTML, to share documents. HTML was created to help users share documents on the internet so that any browser can read a basic HTML document. So that is the first benefit, the first use of HTML, to share documents. Now, if you've ever noticed, if you have a Word document, you have to use Microsoft Word or another word processing document. If you have a PDF file, which is another document file, you have to use Adobe Reader or some other PDF reader. If you have a text document, a text file, you have to use a notepad or some form of word processing document. So, if you were to share one of these documents to one of your friends, and say your friend doesn't have Microsoft Word, say you share this Word document here, and your friend does not have Microsoft Word, then they cannot open this file. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that in the past, today we have access to a wide variety of software. We could use the internet, we can use Google Doc and so on. But you gotta think about it in the past. In the past, software wasn't so widely accessible. You couldn't just go on the internet and open Google Doc because that didn't exist back then. And then not everyone could have afforded the Microsoft Office. So what they did, they created open standard, the HTML standard. So whereby persons, they can use a free browser, which would have been free to anyone to download and access. They could have used a browser to access this shared document on the internet. So it helped persons that they can be able now to access any document from anywhere in the world by using a computer and just a browser. So that's the first benefit there. The second benefit here is that to link to other documents. Now we have what is called a hyperlink, but before we get on to that, we've been talking about this term browser here. Now I'm sure you guys know, I've heard of browsers. You know what is a browser. We have Google Chrome, we have Mozilla Firefox, we have what is the name of this one? I keep forgetting the name of this one. Microsoft Edge. So these are all browsers, and these are not the only ones. Even on your phone, if you have an iPhone, what browser is on an iPhone?
Safari.
Good. What browser is on a Samsung's phone? I know some of you might not get it. It's called Internet, or the older version was actually called Samsung Internet, but I think they changed it to now Internet. Either way, the important point is to note that whenever you want to view an HTML file, whenever you want to view a web page, whenever you want to view a website, you use a software, you use an application called a browser. That's an important point to remember. Now, to link to other documents, we use a feature called hyperlinks. Hyperlinks use an internet address for the related documents in HTML code for the page. Clicking on the hyperlink either downloads the related material or views the document. So if the word hyperlink Is that a new term for any one of you, hyperlink?
Yes, sir.
It is. All right. So whenever you go and Google something, especially when you're Googling something, all of these blue texts here that you're seeing, these are called hyperlinks. I know you know what they are, but maybe you've never heard of the word hyperlink. So whenever you go and click on this link here, this is what we're calling a hyperlink. Anytime you click on something, some form of word, some form of picture, anything that you click on, and it actually takes you to another location on the internet, that is called a hyperlink. It's taking you to another location. So that is the other benefit of the HTML, the other advantage of it, the other use of it, that when you're viewing a document on the internet, for instance, we're on this page here, we don't have to stay on this one page, or we don't have to know the name of the other document. We don't have to go and search for the name of the other document. We can simply click on a link and it takes you to another page of that particular website of the internet. So it might all sound like basic things because we do it every day, but it's the what you need to understand is that these fine details are actually what you need to understand. What is the name of the feature that you're actually using and how they actually work. So anything that it doesn't only have to be a blue text, because if you notice, this one here is black. So all of these links here are actually black. And when you click on it, it takes me to another page. That there was a hyperlink. So if you notice here, a hyperlink can do one of two things. It can either download the file, download the document, like when I was downloading this notepad application. When I clicked on this installer hyperlink, it downloaded the application. So that's one way it shared the document with me. And then the other use of the hyperlink is to view the document. So that is when you browse the internet and you click on the link and it takes you to different parts of the page. That is viewing the document. So that's the two ways of linking to other document. You either download the file or it takes you to another part of the web page to view the content. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Any questions from anyone? Alright, let's continue. So any web browser can be used to access a web page. The most common browsers: Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Microsoft Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Opera, Apple Safari. Now it's important for you to remember examples of browsers that you can use, and it's important for you to also know that we have basically desktop based browsers and we have mobile browsers. So that's like how we have application. We have desktop based applications and we have mobile applications. Similarly, we have a desktop based browser and we have a mobile browser. So for instance, Apple Safari, that's going to be mobile. Google Chrome, that's both mobile and desktop. Firefox, I think that is both also. Microsoft Edge, that is desktop. Not sure if they created a mobile version as yet, but they will basically function the same way. Their main purpose is to allow you to access a web page. Now, browsers let you view HTML file. They let you view the HTML file, not create them. So that's another important point there. So that is going to be 5. We use browsers, and you have to know the different browsers. And 6, we use the browser to view the HTML file, not create it. Because if you notice what I've done so far, I've created the HTML file with a Notepad application, with a word processing application basically. And what I did is to save that that file as a .html file. That's what I did in the beginning there. And in order to view this HTML file, because if you notice, I technically am viewing this HTML file in this Notepad application, but it's not looking like a website. It's not looking like a web page. Only when you're using a browser which is built to read the tags and present the tags to you and all the information, only then will you be able to see the contents of that HTML file. That's when you'll be able to see the website. Now the paragraph continues. You can open a web page by entering a unique web address called a URL in the address bar. So we have a few information here. Whenever you're going to access a website, we refer to that. We have a few names to refer to it by. A website, we have a few names to refer to it as. We can say it's a web address. So whenever you open a website, sorry, a browser, and you type in google.com, that is what we call a web address. Or we can also call it an internet address. These terms, you need to remember them. We can call it a web address. We can also call it an internet address. But the official name is a URL. Where's that information? You don't have it here? Yeah, the official name is called a URL, and URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Uniform Resource Locator, so please take note of that. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So, the Uniform Resource Locator, that is the address of the website. We can call that a web address. We can call it the address of the website. We can call it the internet address. They're all similar terms. But the official name is the Uniform Resource Locator. Now, that name of that website, that URL, that web address, we type that web address into what is called a address bar. Every website has it. You guys use it all the time. When you go to the very top, not the search bar. This is Google's search bar here. Search box. This is Google's search box. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about at the very top. At the very top of your website, of your browser, sorry. This is what we call the address bar. And this is where you can type in the address of a website. For example, youtube.com. And when you press enter, it takes you to that website. Now, what is the difference between an address bar and a search bar? If you notice, in the address bar, when I type in an address, when I type in a URL, and I press enter, it takes me to that address. It takes me to that website. But if you type in that same address, youtube.com, in a search box, it does not take me to that website. It does not take me to that address. it takes me to the search results of that search that I made. So all it's doing here is giving me the results. So that's the difference between the two there that you should take note of. A search box, it only searches for that particular word and gives you the results. So like, for instance, if that word appears on different pages, it will show you the result. But the purpose of the address bar is so that whenever you type in an address, it takes you to the location of that address. That is the difference there of a search box. That is the difference of an address bar, and that is the purpose of the URL, the internet address, the web address. You guys clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Remember, if you have any questions, let me know. So that's your 7th important point. If you notice, there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of small details that you have to remember, especially for exam purposes, because for CSEC purposes, they will test you on each and every one of this here, each and every one of these small details here that we're covering right now. But obviously not all will appear, and we cannot know what will appear in your exam. So that's why it's important for you to remember everything that we're covering here. The paragraph continues. For example, type in www.oup.com/OX Oxford CSEC for IT opens the support page, web page for this text. You can also use a search engine to find a web page. Another important point here. What is a search engine? Now, remember I said in the beginning, a website is not a program. Wait, search bar given options. So you think you search, you have address bar gives you application you search. No. The address bar, you're technically not searching. The address bar does function as a search bar too, because you can actually type in YouTube and it searches for that. But I think because it's Google's application, it works like that. But the address bar is for when you're typing in an address and it takes you to the exact location of that address. Now when you can say you're searching for the address too, but the more purpose of it is to take you to the location of that address. Whereas the search bar, you can even think of the search bar like YouTube search. If you type in youtube.com in YouTube search bar, it doesn't take you to youtube.com. It gives you the search result of that search there. Did that help, Shermany? Or did I confuse you more? Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, in the beginning I said that a web page is not a program. We can consider it as a document. Now, we're coming across a term called a search engine. A search engine is a application. It is a program. So a search engine is a software that is actually running on the internet that allows you to search for particular words, phrases, and so on, where you're looking, whatever you're looking for. So you guys can take note of this definition here. A search engine is a program that searches for and identifies items in a database that correspond to keywords or characters specified by the user, used especially for finding particular websites on the World Wide Web. So, web pages, they are documents on the internet, but a search engine is a program that is being run on the internet and you use this search engine to search for particular words, phrases that are located on websites, that are located on web pages. Can I move on? Anybody still here? All right. So, what would you say is an example of a search engine now? With that definition there, a search engine is a program that you use to search for words, phrases, and so on. So, what would you say is an example of a search engine? What's the most popular search engine you could think of that you use basically almost every day?
Google Chrome.
Sir, Google.
Google. And I'm glad that was also brought up, because you need to know the difference. If you say Google Chrome, you'll basically be referring to the browser. So Google Chrome is a browser, and Google is the actual name of the search engine. It's also similar to other programs and application. Like for instance, if you're just gonna say Safari, if you're just gonna say Edge, they might give you the mark, but it's better to give the full name, the accurate name: Apple Safari, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, so that they know exactly what you're talking about and they're confident that you know what you're talking about. So you got to be careful when you're given names, that you give the accurate name. So I was gonna search for yeah, so you guys are correct. Google, that is the most common search engine. Do you guys know of any other search engine?
There is Microsoft Bing.
Yes, that's correct. Microsoft Bing. Microsoft Edge. No, that's a browser. Microsoft Edge has Bing. I think that's what you're referring to. So when you open Edge, and you go to this search box here, this here is using Bing. So if I type in YouTube, yeah, so notice it's using Microsoft Bing. That is the name of this search engine here. So what are some other examples of search engine? So you guys can take note of these examples here. You have Google, you have Yahoo. So even Yahoo was one. You have MSN Search. We also had Ask, Google, Yahoo, Bing, Baidu, DuckDuckGo. Those are some examples of search engines. And remember, they're programs that are basically running on the internet. Alright, so let's just look at these two paragraphs and then we'll close off for the day. So the next paragraph states that in the early days, web pages were intended to only provide information for education and the government. So that was the original purpose of the internet. It was for the government to use to communicate and to share information, but eventually they saw the use of it and then it expanded to the public. Now new websites are being created and existing ones are being updated and modified every day. A website can be a standalone web page. So this is another important point here. What number are we at? We're at 9. Pretty sure there's more than 9 we looked at so far. Because I'm not sure if any of you noticed it so far, but any of you notice I've been saying web page, websites?
Yes, sir.
The reason for that is because there's a difference between the two. A web page, how many pages that sounds like to you?
One, sir.
One, very good. So whenever you say web page, you are referring to a single page. So just like a Word document, it's going to have a single page. Right now this Word document has a single page inside of it. That is basically what we mean. A web page is a single page of a website. So then, if a web page is a single page of a website, how would you describe a website?
A collection of web pages.
Very good, very good. That's exactly correct. A website now is going to be a collection of web pages. So they're kind of similar, but yet different. A web page is just a single page. So think of it like a book. Think of it like your exercise book, like a textbook. A web page is a single page in that book, whereas the website is the entire book. And how are these pages being linked together? How are these pages connected in that book? They're connected using navigational links. Earlier we looked at hyperlink, which basically used to view another document, to share a document, to download a document. A navigational link now is a type of hyperlink. It is what you use to navigate a website. So what is a navigational link? If you're on YouTube, you ever notice no matter where you go on YouTube, wherever you go on YouTube, you can always go back to the home page. Wherever you go on YouTube, you can always click on library, you can always click on history. Even if I'm looking at a video, I can always click on these three lines here and I can go to any part of the website wherever I am. This is what we call the navigational links. This is what can take us to different parts of the website. As the name implies, it navigates us to different parts of the website. So it basically is a hyperlink, because when you click on it, it takes you to a different location of the website. But we call them navigational links also because it allows us to navigate or travel across this website to access the different parts of the website. So that there should be our final point for today. So in review, what have we looked at for today? We looked at a website can be considered a document, a normal word processing document, and you use an application called a browser in order to view that document. Your website can have text, it can have image, it can have videos, hyperlinks, and so on. We use a language called HTML language, Hypertext Markup language. Remember, it is not a programming language. It is a markup language that shows you, that helps you to format the layout of your website, the layout of your web page. How do we format the layout? We use HTML tags. We use codes called HTML tags, and you can see some examples here. The HTML tag, the center tag, and so on. Next, we looked at what do we use HTML for? We use it to share the documents over the internet, and we use it to link documents. So when you're on one page, you can go to another page, or you can even download that document. What is a browser? A browser is the software that you're going to use to access that web page so that you can view that web page. Remember, we have desktop browsers, we have mobile browsers, and you have to remember examples of the various kinds of browsers. Remember, a browser only views the web page, only views the HTML file. It does not create it. You have to use another application, whether that is a notepad application. In the next class or in a future class, I'll actually show you that you can actually use Microsoft Word to create a web page, and it's actually far easier than using HTML tags. So all of these things we'll be learning in the future. What is the address bar? The address bar is where you're going to type in the URL of that web page. Remember, URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. URL could also mean internet address, web address, or just simply address. What is a search engine? A search engine is a program on the internet that you use to search for certain terms, phrases that are on websites. And what was the internet actually developed for in the beginning? It was actually developed for educational purposes, and more so in the beginning for the government to share information. And lastly, what's the difference between web page and website? A web page is a single page, and a website is a collection of web pages, and we use navigational links to access those various pages on the website. Alright, any questions on anything we covered for today?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what we use HTML tags for again?
We use them to format the layout of our information that we're putting on the web page.
Thanks.
To format the layouts. Any other questions? Alright, if no questions, that will be it for the today's class. Enjoy the rest of your day.